I'm Brian Grant. That is Jonathan Hall, and we are financial advisors at Warburton Capital. And whether we're making this podcast or we're meeting with clients in the conference room, the goal is the same, and it's to help people grow their wealth and define a purpose for it that moves them towards peace. So, what's up, buddy?
What's up?
What's up? I'm looking forward to this one. This isn't necessarily like a single question like a lot of these episodes are that we get asked a lot. This will be fun because this is like
We're gonna take on TikTok.
yeah, don't believe everything you see online is kind of the theme.
That's exactly.
Yeah, and there's endless ones of these. Like there's plenty of bad advice out there.
We could do a million of these.
Yeah, so we'll just kind of go through a few of the big ones we see and talk about maybe the kernel of truth that's in some of them, but how they really miss the mark or are incomplete at best. So let's start. Myth number one that you'll see plenty is just start an LLC and then everything becomes a tax write-off.
My God.
You just write it off.
Dude, I'm glad I took my blood pressure medicine this morning is all I have to say. Because if I had a nickel for every time I heard some variation of this, I'd be able to retire. Like, I don't know what got out there that makes people think that an LLC is just this magical piggy bank of tax-free.
Yeah. People just like saying write-off, I think.
Yeah, write-off.
You just write it off.
That's just a write-off. Isn't there
There's a Seinfeld. Yeah. You don't even know what a write-off is. Yeah. No, you're right. I don't know where it started, but let's put some truth in it. LLC can be important. Like, I'm not saying don't have an LLC if you own a business, but it's a legal structure. It's not a tax strategy.
It's a legal. It's a business.
Right. If you operate a business right now as a sole proprietor in your individual name and you report that income on your Schedule C, and then tomorrow you go open an LLC, it by default, unless you elect otherwise, is still going to flow through and be taxed as a sole proprietorship and end up on your Schedule C. Like business spending, the IRS still says that if you're going to make something deductible or be able to be written off, it doesn't matter whether it's an LLC or not. It has to be necessary and ordinary for that business.
And write-off doesn't mean free.
Right. That's a whole nother myth.
Yeah.
It's like
like a sub-myth.
Yeah. I spent $5,000 on a new laptop, but I wrote it off.
I just wrote it off. So I'm good.
Right. What that really means is you didn't have to pay income tax on that portion of the expense, but you're saving a percentage of the $5,000 you just parted with.
Right.
So like, unless you need the item, you don't save money by spending it.
Yeah.
I don't know where that started either.
The tax code wants to incentivize people to, if they run a business and they need to buy a laptop for the business, then they can buy a laptop and it can be a deductible expense, right? So you don't have to pay income tax on that money for that expense.
Yeah.
That's how the system, and again, we're not tax professionals, right? If you want to figure out what can be a deduction or a write-off for your LLC, the best way to do that is working with a qualified tax professional, like a CPA. But in general, okay, like, yes, you should write off the laptop that you bought for your business, right? Does that mean we were looking at TikTok videos together the other day. And in fact, I think we might try to do a TikTok focused episode someday. But one of them was saying like, oh, start an LLC and then put your wife on as a member and then put your kids on and then fly to Hawaii and that's your annual meeting, write it all off.
Yeah.
That to me sounds like, especially putting it on TikTok, sounds like you're begging for the IRS to go, hello.
Yeah. Yeah. The IRS is a big organization and their job is to collect tax revenue. And so
they probably saw you come.
It's probably not the first time.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, and again, there are real ways, like there are plenty of legitimate, a home office deduction is a legitimate deduction, business mileage, business meals to some percentage can be written off. Like
not writing off every meal and every place you drive.
No, and not writing off your Rolex because you need to look fancy for your, like, that's not.
We can't do that?
No, we can't. You can get one, you just can't write. So that's the point. Work with a professional, figure out what is there are ways to generate tax savings. Maybe you elect to be an S corp at some point and be
Sure.
taxed as an S corp for your LLC. That can create tax savings. But the point is, things that weren't deductible before don't just become magically deductible because you have an LLC. The LLC mainly helps the flow of liability, right, more than it does taxation.
Yeah.
So
And you don't need an LLC for your kids. I hear that one all the time too. Like maybe I'm sure there is a specific situation where you might, but it's like I've had several people come in and say, okay, I want to open an LLC for my kids so I can start deducting things and putting money into it for generational wealth. Like that was like 7 different clickbait things in a row. And it's like, okay. And not to mock people, like I'm
No.
borderline mocking people, but it's like the heart behind what they're trying to say is, hey, I want to provide for my kids and create a great future for them.
Right.
As advisors, we see through that and go, okay, what are we actually trying to accomplish here? What's the goal? What are we trying to do?
Right.
But then the way that the media or social media has fed to them is the way to do it.
Right.
Is often just kind of asinine.
It's just more complicated than it needs to be. So, okay, we got to keep moving because this is the problem with this episode is we're going to get
I'm telling you, we're going to fit 3
into each one. I know. Well, number 2 is one I know we've talked about a lot. This one's crazy to me, but it's more pervasive than you'd think. And it's the idea that I don't want to get a raise because I'm going to get taxed more. I'm going to lose money.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, put me in a higher tax bracket so I don't want to get a raise.
Right.
My brother in Christ, there is so much wrong with that. And it really has to do with your knowledge of tax brackets, which, if this is like your one takeaway from this podcast, awesome. I view that as a total win, right? Because tax brackets are not like, okay, we get to the 32% bracket and now everything's taxed at 32%.
Right.
Right. That's kind of the root of the misconception, I think.
Yep.
It's that if you get into the 32% bracket, that part of your income above where the bracket starts, that part's taxed at 32.
Correct.
Everything else is taxed at, I think it's 24, right?
24, then 22, then 12, 10, all the way down.
10.
Right.
So it's not like, oh man, I don't want to get to the 32% bracket. Because then what people do is they'll do the math of their salary times, 0.32, and that's their tax, versus their old salary times 0.24, and that's their old tax,
right.
And compare it, and it's like, oh, I'm actually making less money. It's just not how it works.
No, you're not going to lose money by getting a raise. That's
I literally had one of my clients went to kind of a big box tax preparer, and that person told the client, you should quit that job because you're having to pay taxes on the income. And I was like, what? And they said, they said I should quit it because I end up paying more in taxes. Yeah, but unless the tax rate's over 100%,
correct,
they're probably going to be okay.
Right. So that's the point. You might be like, because maybe you get to a certain point where your income crests above the threshold for now you're exposed to net investment income tax.
Right.
And it's an extra 3.8% on your investment income, or the Medicare surcharge, or like, so there are new taxes that get layered in, but you're still taking home more money.
Yeah.
So like, I'm with you. I don't want to pay any more than I have to.
Right. My fair share, nothing more.
Yeah, that's it. But yeah, it's just the money that goes over the threshold for the next marginal tax bracket that's exposed to that higher rate. It's not all the dollars. That's really should put this whole myth to bed. So yeah, I know that one bothers us because we hear that more than you'd think.
This is good therapy for us.
Yeah. Okay, number 3. I'm going to wait to invest because I think the market's overpriced and I'm just going to wait for it to crash and then I'll get in.
Yeah.
That, I think, might be sneakily like the most expensive myth to people on this list. How many people do we, first of all, I get it.
Right. It's also one of the more reasonable, okay, I could totally see how someone would get to that point.
Right. Nobody wants to put $100,000 in on Friday and have a 20% drop Monday.
Yep.
I get it. But more often than that, what happens is we see people take this strategy and wait on the sidelines, and then 23, 4, and 5 happen, let's say through 2026 now, and they miss out on a 30, 40, 50% upside because they're waiting for a 15 to 20, 30% correction. It's just like, man, you would have been better off getting in and experiencing the drop than waiting for the drop. You're still buying above where you would have 2, 3 years ago, sometimes even 6 months ago.
Right.
So the easiest way to get around this one is just dollar cost average, right? Just buy no matter what the price is. And if you're a consistent buyer, you just don't get tied up and no one times the market perfectly. If that was an employable strategy that was reliable, every institution would do that. The fact that they don't should tell you something. So I'm not saying to like totally ignore valuations
Sure.
or to never have a cash buffer, but like,
well, and there are things that you can do when the market's dipping that help to amplify total return.
Right.
Working with an advisor is a great way to help take advantage of that. But having money that you're okay with not touching for a long time, so the time horizon's lined up with your ability to take an investment in the stock market, to the risk of an investment in the stock market, but you're just waiting and keeping it in cash because you're waiting for a drop, because you think a drop is going to come. We don't time the market professionally. We don't advise clients to time the market. If we had been relying on my personal intuition when I thought the market would drop, doing this for a living, managing almost $1 billion, I would have been wrong several times over 2023, 24, and 25, and now 26. There were several moments where I thought this really might be it. Like, we've had a great run, but we might have another big dip. I would have been wrong. And that, fine. Like, clients should not rely on my ability to pick when the market's going to go down.
No, or anybody's.
I don't want them to.
Yeah. So don't wait for a crash. There's plenty of data out there you can go look up on even buying stocks at all-time highs. It's actually really interesting because you'd think that you'd have a lower return than if you waited for crashes, just the way math works.
Yeah.
But statistically, if you look at like 1 year, 3 year, 5 year returns following a previous all-time high, if you had invested there, you tend to have pretty similar returns, oddly enough, to people who waited or to dollar cost averaged or so.
Time in the market's better than timing the market.
Right. It's kind of a trope for a reason. There's some truth to that.
Came up with that.
You did. You give credit to Jonathan. Next one. Debt is always bad. Shout out Dave Ramsey.
Yeah.
Friend of the show.
I know. Yeah. We don't want to create a war. We're probably a bug he would love to step on, but I don't necessarily think debt's always bad. Okay.
Yeah.
Like because it depends what kind of debt, right? If we have debt on assets that are going up in value and our overall debt relative to our overall picture is manageable and the payments are manageable, and we think through what if we lose a job, what if we lose this income stream, it's not the worst thing ever. It's if you get over leveraged, if you take too much risk, if you have bad debt on like credit card debt that's filled with DoorDash orders, and like we'll pick on another finance YouTube guru, right? Caleb Hammer, like people on his show, they've got credit card debt and it's because of DoorDash, right?
Right. Or like payday loans. Frankly,
that's all bad debt.
Even a car, like a car is very different than having credit card debt, but it's still having debt on a depreciating asset versus owning a business and you took on debt to build or grow a business, or you have debt in your home mortgage, but the home is building equity in the background. So I think this comes from overall the fact that most people's experience with debt is consumer debt, and that tends to be worse debt or bad debt overtly. So I think you're right. Not all debt is bad. The nuance matters.
That can make you go broke. Like, I will never forget when I was in MBA school. I was in an advanced accounting class or something, and we were working on balance sheets and forecasting, doing all this different stuff. And I had studied the impact of leverage, like just in textbooks and stuff. But once I was working on these problems and doing this forecasting, I realized, wow, like leverage makes really good years really good. And it makes really bad years really bad.
Yeah.
Right. And that's just a decent framework. If you're okay with this is my range of potential outcomes, now I have debt, and this is my range of potential outcomes. If that's all acceptable to you,
Right.
then it's okay.
Right. It's
No,
like an
no.
amplifier.
Yeah.
Right. And that plays good and bad. So no, I think you're right. Okay, the last big one. And man, this one is everywhere right now for the last several years. You need this idea that you need like 14 streams of income. Like you need to be doing affiliate marketing
Right.
and have a rental
Right.
and your primary business, and then you have like an Etsy shop and
Do a little
just
DoorDash on the side.
yeah, you need like every conceivable way to earn money at the same time.
Right.
And I know this one's more nuanced because I'm not saying that it's bad to have a separate stream of income than your primary job, but like this idea of passive income is really oversold. Most of the things that are talked about as passive income are not passive, or at least they weren't passive for a really long time till you made them stable. Or so I mean, there's that. It's a distraction, right? Like if you just went all into your primary business or your primary job, what if you just made more money doing that?
Thank you.
Like,
Thank you. Because I will never forget Tom Warburton, the founder of our firm, gave me some great advice. And as I was becoming CEO of this firm, never get tired of making money. Don't just get bored because the business is successful. If I had a nickel for every time that I saw a client do this, right? It's not necessarily diversification to start 7 different businesses while you have a primary one. It could actually be called diversification, right? Because instead of feeding the golden goose that's feeding your entire family, but maybe you're bored of it. If we're being really honest,
right.
I'll call everyone out here just for a second. Are you just bored? Right. And that's okay. We have episodes about that, about retiring early and why do we have a life we feel like we need to escape from.
Right.
But on the practical side, do we need to start this business and this business and this business? Are we hiding behind the title of entrepreneur to cover up distraction? Or is there one business that if we focused all of our effort on, or we're a little more patient with, it would end up giving us a lot more reward down the road? I think that's worth considering.
Yeah.
Maybe it's a hot take.
No, I just think I mean, I don't know. I think again, it's like that message plays really well online or like in a reel.
Oh yeah.
The truth is much more boring. We work with plenty of wealthy people, quite wealthy people. Most wealthy people, you tell me if I'm wrong, from what I see,
You're wrong.
it's dang it. Most wealth is quiet and boring, and it comes from high savings rates and living below your means and time. Like that's how most, you can read The Millionaire Next Door. There's tons of books. You can listen back, shout out again to Dave Ramsey. Like most of the people you know who are well off did one thing. They did it really well. They saved a lot of the income they were generating from that one thing. They lived below what they could have for a lot of years, and they gave it time. That's just the truth from what I see. That's how most people that accumulate wealth do it. It isn't because they figured out how to drop ship and they do 7 things perfectly.
Yeah, I have 20 vending machines.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I've seen that one. That's a lot of quarters.
There's all, it's just like, so it's fine. Like if you can do that, I'm not saying it's always bad. The point of this isn't that it's bad to have multiple income streams, but it's a choice that offsets other choices you could do. There's opportunity cost involved.
Of course.
And it isn't necessary at all to build significant wealth.
Well, and you and I have daydreamed. We're trying to grow Warburton Capital and run this awesome business that we have, and all this trust has been placed in us. And then you start daydreaming, should I buy a rental home? Because we're human too. And we think, well, there are advantages to it. Should I do that? And then you just realize, man, like, I don't know, the time that I would be spending fixing up the rental home, I could be spending thinking more podcast ideas,
Yeah.
right? Or doing any number of things that could help my business over time.
Right.
And that's probably something we focus on so much, Brian, is the value of our time. Our time is a resource, just like our money.
Mhm.
We are people that manage money for a living, sitting here telling you that another resource that might be worth even more is your time.
Mhm.
Where is your time being focused?
Yeah.
Right? Are you focusing too much of it on work? We've talked about that. Or are you focusing in a million different directions? I will admit there are the occasional people that can do it, but even like they do a ton of things and they do it really successfully. I've got one person in particular I'm thinking of, but I always wonder, even what if that person focused on one thing, you know? And it doesn't mean you like you and I are Renaissance men. We're interested in a lot of things,
Mhm.
right? It doesn't mean you have to be boring and only do wealth management,
Right.
but as an income stream, I don't know. It's
Yeah.
worth considering.
No, I agree. It's I mean, the point of all of these, and maybe this is a good way to wrap up, but the point of all of these is like I'm all for being a person of action, but maybe before you decide to reinvent your whole life from a reel you saw online,
Yes.
talk to someone. Maybe even at least run it by some friends, but better yet, run it by some professionals who do this for a living and could just give you objective advice on the pros and cons of taking the advice you saw online. So that would be my advice, rather than the action you take from watching the reel be to do whatever they said. Make it be to bring those questions to somebody you work with or to find someone you work with.
I think the biggest takeaway from this episode is that you can't trust everything you see online.
Yeah.
Hopefully, we all already know that.
Yeah.
But that there is real value in working with a financial advisor,
Mm.
because we stay up on this stuff. We have good exposure to what the popular things are, and we have a general idea of whether those things have merit or not. There are no dumb questions. Reach out to your advisor, reach out to us, and comment on this video, reach out to us at our firm. You can ask questions to a professional and get real answers.
Mm.
And that's okay. It's okay to not know everything. And it's probably better to admit that you don't know everything and work with somebody who does this for a living.
Mm. Yep. I agree. We need to do another one of these soon.
That was fun.
I
I'm a
know.
little stressed out now, having gone through all that, but I didn't want it to end. So I think we got to do it again. That's
I
pretty
know.
fun.
Yeah, we will. All right. Thanks for joining us, guys.